There is a man who keeps telling himself, once I make more money, I'll finally be satisfied. Once I get the promotion, once I buy the house, once I get the better car, once people respect me, once I become successful, once I have enough savings, then I will relax. Then I will feel secure. Then I will finally be happy. But something strange happens. He reaches the goal. And the goal moves. He makes more money, but suddenly his lifestyle becomes more expensive. He buys the car he wanted, but 6 months later he wants another one. He gets the attention he was chasing, but now he needs even more validation. He reaches a level of success he once dreamed about, and somehow he still feels behind. This is the psychology of the man who never has enough. And the dangerous part is that from the outside, he may look ambitious, he may look disciplined, he may look successful, he may even look wealthy, but internally, he is being controlled by an invisible force. The belief that his life will finally become valuable when he possesses more. The Stoics understood this problem thousands of years ago. Seneca warned that poverty is not simply having little, it is also the inability to be satisfied with what you have, because a man who needs everything will always be poor, even if he possesses millions. And a man who has learned what is enough can possess very little and still live like a king. Today, we are going to examine the psychology of men who never have enough. Why do they keep chasing? Why does achievement rarely satisfy them? Why does comparison make them feel poor? Why does money sometimes increase anxiety instead of eliminating it? And most importantly, how can a man escape the endless hunger without killing his ambition? Because Stoicism does not teach you to become weak, it teaches you to become free. Chapter 1. When enough doesn't exist. Imagine two men. The first man earns $2,000 a month. He tells himself, if I could make $5,000, life would be perfect. Eventually, he makes $5,000, but now he sees people making $10,000. Suddenly, $5,000 doesn't feel impressive anymore. So he says, if I make $10,000, then I'll finally be comfortable. He reaches $10,000. Then he meets someone making $50,000. The finish line moves again. This man isn't pursuing wealth. He is pursuing a feeling. And feelings don't have fixed prices. There is always another level, another car, another house, another achievement, another person to impress, another number in the bank, another status symbol. And this creates one of the greatest psychological traps. If you don't define enough, the world will define it for you, and the world will never define it downward. It will always tell you more money, more followers, more possessions, more influence, more recognition, more status, more success. The market survives by convincing you that your current life is incomplete. The Stoic asks a completely different question. What do I actually need? Not, what does everyone else have? Not, what would impress people? Not, what would make me look successful? But, what is genuinely necessary for a good life? That question is dangerous to consumer culture, because once a man understands the difference between need and desire, he becomes much harder to manipulate. Chapter 2. The empty space inside. Many men believe they want more money, but sometimes money is only the surface desire. Underneath it is something deeper: security, respect, identity, validation, control, fear. A man may say, I want to become rich. But psychologically, what he may actually mean is, I don't want to feel insignificant. I don't want to be disrespected. I don't want to depend on anybody. I want people to recognize my value. I want to prove that I succeeded. I want to escape the insecurity I feel inside. And this is where the problem begins, because no external achievement can permanently solve an internal identity problem. If you believe you are worthless without success, then no amount of success will ever be enough, because every achievement temporarily covers the insecurity. Then the insecurity returns, so you chase another achievement, and another, and another. This creates a psychological treadmill. Run faster, earn more, acquire more, prove more, but remain emotionally in the same place. The Stoics would tell you to examine the judgment beneath the desire. Ask, why do I need this? and then ask again. Why? Keep digging. Eventually, you may discover that what you thought was ambition was actually fear. Chapter 3. The Comparison Machine. One of the fastest ways to destroy contentment is comparison. A man can have an objectively good life until he opens his phone. Suddenly, somebody is richer, somebody is younger, somebody owns a bigger house, somebody drives a better car, somebody has a more attractive partner, somebody has more followers, somebody is traveling, somebody is celebrating success. And suddenly, your life feels small. This is one of the great psychological illusions of modern life. You compare your ordinary reality with somebody else's highlight reel. You don't see their debt. You don't see their anxiety. You don't see their failed relationships. You don't see their insecurity. You don't see the sacrifices. You see the result, and then you judge yourself against it. Epictetus essentially taught that our judgments about things influence our disturbance more than the things themselves. The problem isn't simply that another man has more. The problem is the meaning you attach to his having more. You tell yourself, his success means I'm behind. His wealth means I'm poor. His lifestyle means mine is inadequate. But why? Another man's abundance does not automatically create your scarcity. His success is not your failure. His possessions do not subtract from your character. The Stoic man learns to compete with himself, not with every man he sees. Chapter 4. The Ego of Acquisition. There is another reason men never have enough. Ego. The ego wants evidence. It wants proof that you matter, and possessions provide visible evidence. A watch can communicate status. A car can communicate success. A house can communicate wealth. A title can communicate importance. A large social following can communicate influence. But the problem is that external status requires constant maintenance. If your identity is attached to what you own, you must constantly acquire, because the moment someone has more than you, your ego feels threatened. The Stoic solution is radical. Build an identity that cannot be purchased. Character, discipline, courage, wisdom, self-control, integrity. These cannot be taken away because somebody bought a more expensive car. Imagine a man who walks into a room and doesn't need to prove anything. He doesn't need the most expensive clothes. He doesn't need to dominate the conversation. He doesn't need everyone to admire him. He doesn't need to announce his success. Why? Because he knows who he is. That is wealth. Chapter 5. The Hedonic Trap. There is a psychological phenomenon often called hedonic adaptation. You get something you wanted. At first, it feels incredible. Then your mind adapts. The new car becomes normal. The bigger house becomes normal. The higher income becomes normal. The luxury vacation becomes normal. And eventually, what once felt like extraordinary becomes ordinary. Then you want something else. This is why accumulation can become addictive. Not because the object itself is magical, but because anticipation creates excitement. You imagine how your life will feel after acquiring something. The brain becomes excited by the possibility. Then you get it. The excitement fades, and another target appears. The cycle repeats. Want, acquire, adapt. Want, again. The Stoics had a powerful response to this. Practice voluntary simplicity. Occasionally live below your means. Eat simple food. Wear ordinary clothes. Avoid unnecessary luxury. Spend time without entertainment. Experience discomfort voluntarily. Not because suffering is inherently good, but because you need to prove to yourself, I can be okay without everything I desire. That realization is freedom. Chapter 6. Why more money can create more fear. Many men believe money eliminates fear. Sometimes it does. Financial stability can provide genuine security. But there is a point where more wealth creates a new problem. Fear of losing it. The man with nothing may fear poverty. The man with millions may fear losing millions. And if his identity is attached to his possessions, the fear becomes even stronger. He starts protecting the image, protecting the lifestyle, protecting the status, protecting the perception. He doesn't own the wealth anymore. The wealth owns him. This is why Seneca practiced reflecting on loss. Not because he wanted to become poor, but because he wanted to become psychologically prepared for uncertainty. The Stoic question is not, how can I guarantee that I never lose anything? You cannot. The better question is, if I lost what I possess, would I still know how to live? If the answer is yes, you possess wealth. If the answer is no, your possessions possess you. Chapter 7. The difference between ambition and greed. Now we need to make an important distinction. Stoicism is not anti-ambition. A Stoic can build businesses, make money, become successful, lead organizations, create wealth, compete, win. The problem is not wanting to improve your life. The problem is believing your life has no value until you improve it. Ambition says, I want to become better. Greed says, I am not enough until I have more. Ambition says, I will build. Greed says, I must possess. Ambition is directed toward excellence. Greed is directed toward filling an emotional void. Ambition can coexist with contentment. Greed cannot, because greed always says, not yet, not enough, more, again, keep going. A Stoic man can pursue $10 million while being completely at peace with himself today. That is the paradox. You can desire improvement without despising the present. Chapter 8. Define your personal enough. Every man needs a definition of enough, not society's definition. His. Enough money to live securely, enough possessions to live comfortably, enough work to remain productive, enough leisure to remain human, enough ambition to grow, enough discipline to stay grounded, enough relationships to remain connected, enough solitude to hear himself think. Without a personal definition of enough, you become vulnerable to endless consumption. So sit down and ask yourself, how much money do I actually need? What kind of lifestyle genuinely makes me happy? What possessions improve my life? Which possessions only impress other people? What expenses are necessary? Which ones exist because I'm comparing myself to others? What does success mean if nobody can see it? These questions force you to create your own scoreboard. And once you create your own scoreboard, the world's scoreboard becomes less powerful. Chapter 9. The Stoic Practice of Gratitude. Gratitude is often treated like a motivational slogan. But for the Stoics, gratitude can become a discipline. Look at what you already possess. Your time, your health, your relationships, your abilities, your opportunities, your freedom, your mind, your ability to choose your response, and recognize that none of these are guaranteed forever. The purpose isn't to convince yourself that you shouldn't want anything. It is to stop treating everything you already have as worthless, simply because you want something else. A man can pursue a better house while appreciating the house he has. He can pursue more wealth while respecting the money he currently possesses. He can pursue growth without insulting his present. That is emotional maturity. Chapter 10. Learn to want less. One of the most powerful Stoic practices is learning to reduce unnecessary desire. Not because desire is evil, but because every unnecessary desire creates another potential source of anxiety. If you need everyone to admire you, you become controlled by public opinion. If you need luxury, you become controlled by money. If you need constant entertainment, you become controlled by stimulation. If you need a particular lifestyle, you become controlled by income. If you need another person's approval, you become controlled by their behavior. But when you reduce unnecessary wants, you increase your freedom. This is why simplicity is not weakness. Simplicity is leverage. The fewer things you need to feel okay, the harder you are to control. Chapter 11. The Man Who Can Walk Away. Imagine a man who can walk away. He can walk away from unnecessary spending. He can walk away from an ego-driven purchase. He can walk away from a toxic business deal. He can walk away from approval. He can walk away from a lifestyle he cannot afford. He can walk away from competition that doesn't matter. He can say, no, not because he cannot afford something, but because he doesn't need it. That is power. The ability to say, I could have this, but I don't need it. The world interprets wealth as the ability to buy anything. Stoicism interprets freedom differently, the ability to refuse what you don't need. Chapter 12. The fear of being ordinary. There is another psychological force behind endless acquisition, the fear of being ordinary. Some men cannot tolerate the idea of living an ordinary life. They need to be exceptional. They need to be recognized. They need to be remembered. They need to prove themselves. But ask yourself, who told you that being ordinary is failure? You don't need to become famous to live well. You don't need millions of followers. You don't need everyone to know your name. Marcus Aurelius was an emperor, yet he repeatedly reminded himself of the temporary nature of fame. Eventually, the famous and the forgotten become equally silent. So build a life that is meaningful even when nobody is watching. Because if your happiness depends on being seen, you will always need an audience. Chapter 13. Stop moving the finish line. The man who never has enough is always postponing his life. I'll enjoy it later. I'll relax after this project. I'll spend time with my family when I make more. I'll sleep properly when the business becomes successful. I'll be happy when I reach the next level. But there is always another level. Eventually, you discover something terrifying. You spent your entire life preparing to live and never actually lived. The Stoic does not abandon ambition. He simply refuses to sacrifice the present completely for an imaginary future. Work hard, build, save, invest, improve. But don't forget to live while you're doing it. Chapter 14. The Stoic Reset. If you feel that you have become a man who never has enough, begin with a reset. For 30 days, stop buying things to impress people. Stop comparing lifestyles. Stop checking what people you envy are doing. Track every unnecessary expense. Practice one simple meal regularly. Spend time without entertainment. Take walks without your phone. Write down what you already possess. And every evening ask yourself, what did I need today that I didn't already have? You may discover something uncomfortable. You needed far less than you thought. And that discovery can change your relationship with money. Because wealth is not simply increasing what comes into your life. Sometimes wealth is reducing what you believe must come into your life. Chapter 15. The final lesson. Enough is a decision. There will always be someone richer, someone younger, someone stronger, someone more successful, someone more attractive, someone more famous, someone with more possessions. If your peace depends on being ahead of everyone, you have created a game you can never win, because someone will always be ahead. The Stoic man chooses another game. He asks, am I becoming wiser? Am I becoming more disciplined? Am I keeping my word? Am I controlling what I can control? Am I treating people well? Am I using my resources responsibly? Am I becoming less dependent on external validation? Am I becoming harder to manipulate? That is the scoreboard that matters. Because at the end of your life, the size of your possessions will not tell the whole story. What matters is what kind of man you became while pursuing them. Conclusion: the man who finally has enough. The man who never has enough believes that satisfaction is somewhere ahead. He keeps running. More money, more possessions, more status, more attention, more achievement, more proof. But the finish line keeps moving, until one day he realizes the problem was never that he didn't have enough. The problem was that he never decided what enough meant. Stoicism gives you a different path. Build wealth, but don't worship it. Pursue excellence, but don't hate yourself for where you are. Want more, but understand what you actually need. Compete, but don't let comparison control your identity. Enjoy luxury, but remain capable of living without it. Become successful, but never make success the price of self-respect. Because the richest man is not necessarily the man who owns the most. Sometimes he is the man who needs the least to remain at peace. And the most powerful man in the room may not be the one wearing the most expensive watch. He may be the one who doesn't need anyone to notice it. Remember this: if you cannot say enough, no amount will ever be enough. You can spend your entire life chasing more, or you can learn the ancient Stoic secret: want less, need less, fear less, and become free. That is the psychology of a man who finally has enough. And that is real wealth.